They want me to talk about the specs.
They want you to talk about the specs. They want you to talk about the specs. You are a man with hairy breasts and not pecs.
I just wanted some sauce on those zingers.
First off, everybody, real quick shameless plug. Make sure you check out my ASMR channel, link below in the description, top pin comment. I'm going to have a new video coming up this week. So if you sub there, I talk about portable consoles, I talk about tech, I just speak to you softly. Even if you don't like ASMR, you may like the content there, so go check it out. So I could soothe you like a man.
A man.
So I have gotten demands, literally, in my live streams. You should go check out my live streams. I live stream on a pretty damn regular basis on this channel to talk about the PS6 specs. Like, Rich, why the hell aren't you talking about them? You've talked about specs of every single console before, at least for the past decade plus. Why not now? And I'm like, hey, that's a good point. You're right. I didn't keep up with them, but now I have the specs right in front of me. Shout out to Moore's Law is Dead. I'll have a link to his YouTube channel below in the description. And yeah, I got some interesting things to say. It's not all negative and it's not all positive. Anyway, here we go. Here are the specs. Then we'll discuss and I'll give you my take on everything. So the PlayStation 6, which they're expecting to come out in 2027. Feel about that as you may, because it feels like the 9th generation didn't happen. I'll talk more about that later when I start complaining. But here are the specs that Moore's Law got. This information is from 2023, so take that as you will. Some things may have changed, but from what I'm hearing, and Moore's Law said this as well, when Sony has a hardware spec direction, they usually stick with it. They stay pretty consistent, so whatever, but something still could change. Now, even though it's not the first thing on the list, it's the first thing I want to talk about because it may not seem interesting to you, but it is. Now, the PS6 is going to have 160 watt TBP, which is total board power. The PS5, the base one, actually had a TBP of 220 to 250 watts. I couldn't find anything. Again, maybe there is something out there, but I may have missed it, that the PS5 Pro is around 160 watts TBP too. So they're making this more powerful next-gen system be at least as efficient. Maybe the numbers I have for the PS5 Pro for its TBP are wrong, as the PS5 Pro, while making the PS6 outclass it. So it's more efficient and more powerful. It may not be the huge leap that people are hoping for and expecting, but nonetheless, it's going to be more efficient and more capable than the current gen PlayStations that we have. Now, in terms of what they're going to be doing for graphics in the PlayStation 6, obviously, again, Sony is sticking to AMD for the CPU and GPU. We're going to have Zen 6 cores for the CPU. Let me get into that first. They're going with 8 cores. I'm assuming it's going to have 16 threads once again, but it's going to be based on Zen 6 or even newer than the current gen PS5 and PS5 Pro, where the CPU is based on Zen 2 architecture. Now, going back to graphics, we're going to have RDNA 5 in the PlayStation 6, and we're going to have 40 to 48 compute units running at least 3 gigahertz. Now, that may sound like, hey, that looks like it's cut back from the PlayStation 5 Pro. The PlayStation 5 Pro has 60 compute units, but those are based on RDNA 3 architecture. So even though the PlayStation 6 has less compute units than the PS5 Pro, it's based on newer AMD RDNA technology, so it's still going to be a noticeable improvement over the PS5 Pro. It's not going to be scaled back. Don't just go by the black and white numbers that you're seeing. It's going to have 160-bit or 192 bus with super fast GDDR7, and its rasterization performance, again, that's where they take the lines and the triangles and they make them into pixels so you can see them on your screen, is going to be about 3 times the PlayStation 5, but ray tracing is definitely going to get a huge boost due to the RDNA 5 GPU that's going to be inside of the PS6. Now, here's where things get interesting, too. I didn't hear about this until while making this video because I was looking into things. There was a power saver mode that was introduced for the PlayStation 5. That doesn't really save any power. It's a low power mode for developers to work with to make their games function in this mode where it cuts down the performance of the PS5. But for the 2 cents it may save you on your electric bill a year, it doesn't really make sense that it exists for that reason. What many people think, and it's almost guaranteed that Sony's coming out with this, is that this low power mode for the PS5 is made so devs can make sure their games work on the upcoming PS6 portable. Yeah, that's what it's more than likely really about. I have the specs for those. I'll get into those, then we'll discuss the specs of everything. The PS6, the PS6 portable. We'll discuss the specs of the bird, whatever. Anyway, here they are. So first and foremost, the PlayStation 6 Handheld is going to have a monolithic 3 nanometer die. Now, what the hell does monolithic means? It's going to be a single integrated circuit that contains all the necessary components and everything you need for a particular function, such as a processor or a chip. So they're not going to have little chiplets all over. It's just going to be on one die. Everything will be on there that the PS6 needs to function, at least when it comes to the CPU and GPU. It's also going to be backwards compatible with the PS5 and PS4 generations. Of course, the PS3 is left out again because no one wants to deal with the cell processor, even though there's been emulators made by like enthusiasts in the community for free. But okay, that actually, I remember seeing someone running PS3 games on an emulator, and they were running it on an AMD FX 8350. But Sony can't get it to work on current gen consoles. Whatever. They don't want to deal with PS3. Now, Canis, that's the code name for the PS6 handheld, is going to have a micro SD card slot. Hopefully it's micro SD Express, because playing games off of even a fast micro SD card, it's just too slow. It's too slow. And when you play games off an SD card, even on a Steam Deck, it doesn't stream the assets properly. Like it just, but whatever. The good news is it seems like it's going to have an M.2 SSD slot. Hopefully Sony makes that where it's easily accessible. Haptic function, I expected that. Dual mics, touchscreen, duh. Now this is interesting. They're expecting it to have a USB-C port that gives you video out capabilities. So I guess if you just want to get this upcoming PlayStation 6, let's just call it PSP or PS Portable, you'll be able to hook it up to your TV and use it as a home console as well. I like that. They're saying that this is also going to come out in fall 2027 or even an early 2028 release date. It's going to have a 15-watt total board power, so they're looking to make it efficient. You're not going to be getting 40 plus watts out of it like you are with a lot of the other Steam Deck competitors, but again, this is a console and they could do more wizardry with less wattage. This kind of concerns me, even though it's going to be based on Zen 6. They're only going to have 4 cores in there. I'm sure they're going to be multi-threaded cores, but even in a dedicated console, a quad core in 2028 is kind of lunacy. I mean, even Nintendo, I understand these are Zen cores and way more powerful, but even Nintendo with their ARM chip has 8 cores. But nonetheless, again, optimizations for a portable console, maybe I'm overlooking into that. And of course, you can't compare the ARM cores compared to x86 Zen cores that are going to be in the PS6 and PS6 handheld. So maybe that's kind of a dumb comparison, but nonetheless, I expected more than just having 4 physical cores. Now, the PlayStation 6 handheld is going to have 12 to 20 RDNA 5 compute units, which is kind of insane. It's fairly impressive. Hopefully the CPU only being 4 cores doesn't hold it back. And those are going to be running at 1.6 to 2 gigahertz. And it's going to have LPDDR5X memory running at 7,500 megahertz with 128-bit bus. And this portable console's rasterization performance is going to be about half the PS5. Ray tracing is expected to be a little better. They're also saying that the Canis Portable will be able to outperform the Xbox Ally X performance, not because Sony was targeting that. It's just going to have, by the time they come out with it, it's going to have newer tech. And even though it's only a quad-core processor and running at a lower total board power, they're still going to be able to beat it because it's just newer and faster and more efficient. So there you go. So it seems like Sony is looking to bring back consumers that they lost due to the price of the PlayStation 5. There is still half of PlayStation owners that are still playing on a PS4 that haven't upgraded to a PS5, almost 5 years after the console's launched. And what Sony is saying is that, yeah, okay, we got to make a more powerful console. Obviously, we're not going to PS6. It's just a PS5 Pro with the 6 next to it. It's going to perform better. It's going to do better with ray tracing, definitely. But they don't want to go knee deep into the hardware and make it insanely expensive. They see that the market is being turned off by the high prices. I mean, for Christ's sake, they just increased the price of the original Switch now in the States. They increased the prices of the Xbox Series S and X. And Sony realizes if people can't afford your hardware, they're not going to be buying your games, where they make up a lot of their money with licensing, Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo. And if they're not buying your games and accessories because they can't afford your hardware, you're not going to be making money. So they have to make the price to entry cheaper. And this is speculation, and it could be more expensive. But they're saying that the next generation PlayStation, the PS6, is going to be $499 US. At least that's what they're targeting. Again, grain of salt, but that's a good sign. Now, in terms of how I feel about the PS6 handheld, I am glad it's coming out, and I think it's going to be awesome, and I'm looking forward to it. It's especially if they just bring all the PS6 games cut down to the PS6 portable. They're calling it Canis. Yes, I'm looking at the screen right now, Canis. That's great. But are we going to be in another Xbox Series S and X situation where developers are required to make their games also run on this PlayStation 6 portable, where it could kneecap the games? That's happened with the Series X and S. A lot of people consider the Series S this generation as an albatross around the neck of what developers could do with current gen hardware. Hopefully this isn't the same with the PS6 portable, or we'll see if Sony is actually going to make it where the games aren't required to be on the PS6 portable along with the PS6, but that would suck too. So you have this portable version of your home console. That's what they seem to be considering it. But then you're going to say, nah, this game is this first party big game that we have coming out for the PS6 is too much for the PS6 portable. Sucks, can't play it on there. That would kind of defeat the purpose, especially when we have these portable consoles now from whether it be Valve or Asus or Xbox or GPD that could play pretty much anything you throw at it to some degree. I'm hoping that that's the same thing for the PS6 portable. That's what I'm just going to call it at this point. But I'm also concerned about the fact, even though it's Zen 6 cores, that it's only going to be a 4-core, physical 4-core processor in there. But I may be overthinking it. Time will tell, and we'll see when the PS6 is in our hands and the PS Portable is in our hands how both consoles perform. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room, and I see people online complaining understandably about it. What the hell happened to this generation? What happened? What happened? It's like when they released the PS5 Pro, it's like, I have one because I'm an idiot, but who was asking for this? It feels like this generation didn't happen. I thought it was maybe because I'm getting older, but even people who are like half my age or like in their 20s that are in my audience are like, nah, this felt like a weird generation. I feel like I did not get what I wanted to out of my hardware. Not saying there hasn't been great games, but it doesn't, the 9th generation, I mean, Microsoft basically gave up on hardware. Let's keep it real this generation. Feels like a non-generation. It feels like it just was a failure to launch. I'm sure COVID had some part to do with it, but I don't think it was all COVID. I think the companies are not sure what direction to go into right now. And they were just like throwing anything at the wall and see what sticks. Sony stuck with the hardware, and they did the typical thing where they did this in the 8th generation too, but they came out with the PS4 Pro, and they're doing it with the PS5 and PS5 Pro. Microsoft's just like, we're just going to, oh, you want to play your games you want to play our first party games on your phone? You want to play it in our competitor's console? Go right ahead. Go play Forza Horizon on the PS5. We don't care. So it started off so promising. It started off so exciting. Like, I remember seeing the trailer for the reveal of the Series X, and I'm like, yeah, Microsoft almost said Sony. They bought all these developers. Okay, they're really looking to get a big, good library of games that are exclusive to their platform. And it just felt like it was a nothing burger. And I remember when Halo Infinite first launched and it was broken, and I don't think it ever recovered the way that Microsoft wanted it to recover. And there was so many other games that were just like Hellblade 2 I was so psyched for that. And it ended up being a meh. And it's what happened. I am so baffled what happened this generation. And a lot of people feel, and this is why they're annoyed, and I get it. They're like, I spent $500, or if you got the PS5 Pro, $700, or even if you got a Series S, who cares? I spent money on this generation, and I feel like I got very little in return compared to other generations. But maybe things will turn around with the 10th generation, if Microsoft's even in the 10th generation. They say they are, but are they really? They may just be saying that so people don't throw their Series X's and S's in the trash. Anyway, that's my take on this hardware. I also feel disappointed with this generation, and I'm not super excited for the next generation. However, I am very curious and very excited, though, for the PlayStation 6 Portable. I'm going to get the PS6, obviously, of course, but the PS6 Portable is what I really have my eyes on. I love these portable handhelds. That's actually one of my next videos on my ASMR channel, is me taking a look at the OG Lenovo Legion Go. So that's up my alley. I forgot the Xbox Ally X is named Ally. That wasn't a stupid pun. Anyway, Rich Tomorrow, signing out. See you soon in the next video. Make sure you check out this channel, sub to this channel, check out my live streams. I'm out. And so is the bird.